Good morning, I'm Dmytro, I'm from King's College, and I want to present you the results of our joint research efforts between King's College London and BBC Research and Development team. And I'd like to start with some figures from CISCO Visual Networking Index, which clearly indicates that the world is obsessed with video streaming. So they predict that by 2018, 80% of traffic, of all consumer traffic on internet would be video. And the same trend, thanks to all the fancy handsets we have right now and thanks to 4G networks, the same trend is also observed for mobile traffic. And obviously this tremendous growth in video traffic raises some issues. And one would be user experience. So, for example, despite the fact that 4G network was introduced in the UK recently, there's still a lot of problems when you want to watch something, for example, on the train between London and Manchester. And there's still, it's still not clear how much and how properly we should invest in infrastructure to support this demand and to guarantee the required quality of service. And another question is with business models, because ISPs would be concerned about this growing data traffic, and they want to probably find better ways to monetize on that. And in this project, we took a data-driven approach to look at some of issues related at some of the related issues, and particularly we studied the law of accesses to BBC iPlayer, which is the catch-up TV from BBC, and we looked at the trace of around 2 billion sessions from May 2013 to January 2014, and more importantly, it covers around 32 million monthly users, which, if you compare with the population of the country, it would be around half of the UK population. So we took the BBC logs and we looked at the difference in access patterns in different dimensions, such as geography, types of devices, difference in user access patterns between different networks, fixed line networks, and mobile networks with different pricing models. And we also came out with an idea of how we can come out with a method to use the Cross-ISPs navigation of users. And so if you look at the activity of BBC iPlayer users around different corners of the country, in the urbanized areas in the middle England and around Edinburgh in central Scotland, the level of accesses, the level of user activity in iPlayer is extremely high, whereas in rural areas of Wales and Highlands and Northern Ireland, it's very low. So trying to dig in deeper into the cause of this, we compared our statistics with the statistic provided by Ofcom and found a very nice correlation between the broadband, and this is fixed line broadband speed in the region, and as reported by Ofcom, and the level of activity of BBC iPlayer users in the region. And although this correlation obviously can be explained by many factors, such as demographic specifics and so on and so forth, we took this as a sign that infrastructural support is important to engage users. And as far as devices are concerned, we looked at the accesses, at the volume of accesses for live content at BBC iPlayer. And although typically, and we split the accesses between mobile devices such as iPhones, such as mobile phones and tablets, and all other devices such as PC-like devices, TV console, laptops, and set-top boxes. And although typically accesses from non-mobile devices suppress accesses from mobile devices, something interesting happened in July when the picture is vice versa. And if you look at what is happening, we found that that was the time of Wimbledon. And this is particularly interesting because we also found the same pattern for other events such as Olympic Games in Sochi. And basically it says that knowing that, because these external events are known in advance, we can kind of suggest some provisioning schemes to support this demand. So geography devices, we also looked at how accesses to BBC iPlayer differ between different ISPs. So in this plot, we showed the weekly share of session throughout the time span of the study for the 5 representative ISPs, and we didn't find anything interesting. So there is some fluctuations, but what is important is that there is no big difference across different ISPs. But if we consider mobile ISPs, we see like the 5 representative mobile ISPs, we see totally 2 different patterns. One, the 3 red ISPs, they behave slightly different from the 2 blue ones, which are gaining a lot from May to January. And trying to explain that, we looked at the pricing models offered by those operators. And we found that for the 2 blue ones, both of them would offer all-you-can-eat data, whereas none of the red ones would have such a plan. So all-you-can-eat data can boost user consumption, but not only it can boost user consumption, it also changes the way user behave. So, for example, if we consider the daily statistics of accesses for fixed line ISPs, we see this typical like expected peak in evening hours. Whereas if we look at mobile ISPs, the peak, for the red ones, which didn't have all-you-can-eat data, the peaks are shifted, and we see 2 distinct peaks in around 7 o'clock and around in the morning, and around 7 o'clock in the evening, and that can be explained because users watch more on mobile networks during commutes. And as far as blue mobile ISPs, so the ISPs with unlimited data plans, are considered, they feature the peaks of both the fixed line ISPs and the mobile, the commute peaks. So this suggests basically that users of all-you-can-eat data watch BBC iPlayer during commutes, but also in the evening instead of home broadband. And we also looked at how user navigation across different networks can be exploited to improve user experience. So we looked at how the share of episodes that user complete on different networks. So an average user on a mobile network would typically complete only like 20% of the episode. So maybe out of 1 hour episode, they will typically watch only the first 12 minutes. For the fixed line ISPs, that would be around 50%. But if we consider a same user watching the same content and consider his sessions throughout a couple of days, we see that basically they complete all the episode across different sessions. So in a sense, user complete watching across different sessions and networks. And that can be exploited in a very simple content prefetching scheme which we developed. So the idea is that knowing what a user will be watching later during commutes, we can speculatively prefetch that content on his device when he has a good connectivity at home, for example, a good Wi-Fi connectivity at home. And then while user will be commuting, he can watch that from his cache, from his mobile device. And we show that this speculative prefetching scheme based on a predictive algorithm can save up to 50% of users' mobile traffic. So I will quickly conclude because I'm running out of time. We looked, using the BBC iPlayer data, we looked at some of the aspects related to infrastructural support, business models, and user experience. And we find the evidence that user engagement depends on the level of infrastructural support as well as on the pricing models, because we observed significant difference between how users behave on all-you-can-eat data plans and on limited capped data plans. And there is a lot of potential for mobile content prefetching. So thank you.
Okay, can I just remind people asking questions to identify themselves and their affiliation? Greg.
Greg Choules, 3 Mobile UK. We are probably one of the blue lines on your graph. With events such as Wimbledon, do you foresee that there will be more huge peaks like that for people watching live traffic?
Yes.
Okay, in which case, do you think it would be worthwhile, the eyeball network such as ourselves, investing in multicast technology to lessen the amount of unicast streams?
Yeah, definitely. And that was one of the projects that we considered with BBC, kind of broadcasting the content during from the cell tower during the live events, external like sport events. That is definitely what we consider to do.
Actually, yes, I have a question. Brian Nisbet with NOT, with my HEAnet hat on. So just wondering, some of the usage graphs and the area graphs you were looking at, did you look at, or do you have any idea of where the proxies that people might allegedly use to watch iPlayer if they didn't happen to live within the UK might land, or how that might, or if that kind of has any effect on the viewing figures of the information?
Well, that's a good question, but the data that we got from BBC was already resolved into ISPs, so we didn't have accesses to real IP addresses. We had only network identifiers, which was kind of anonymized IP addresses. But from their words, it wasn't really a big, say, issue for our analysis.
So I can take that they're not paying a lot of attention. That's good. That's good.
Okay, thank you, Dmytro.
One very quick question. I wonder if you've noticed any of the regions change. So, for example, there's some regions that had very poor connectivity that now have fantastic connectivity. I wonder if you noticed anything, or if it was worth rerunning it with slightly newer data.
That's actually an interesting one, but we didn't try to do it. Definitely something was looking at the dynamics.
That would be massively useful if you could do that.
I think Ofcom also provides the data for different time periods. So.
I think your data will be more accurate.
Okay, thanks.